He's one of the most successful high school quarterbacks to come out of Orange County. Carson Palmer, while at Santa Margarita Catholic High School, won back-to-back CIF championships. In college, while at USC, he won the Heisman Trophy. In the NFL, he played 15 seasons with 3 different teams, achieving success at every stop. And today, he's at the helm as head coach of his old high school, Santa Margarita. On this very special edition of Coach's Corner, I sit down with Carson as we have a very insightful conversation about football on all levels. This is Coach's Corner. I'm Paul Higgins, and all the action starts right now. So Carson, when I first talked to you when you got the job a few months back, the first thing you said is, Paul, I didn't know it was going to be like this. Do you remember that? You came in, and then it was almost like the NFL. It's a big job.
Yeah. Do I remember that? I don't remember what I had for breakfast today, let alone months ago. But a lot of curveballs and turns along the way. Anytime there's drastic change to a program or organization, a team, there's a lot at first. And so this year's been a great learning experience. There's been some things that needed to change, some things that needed to stay the same. But overall, it's been a great opportunity to learn. And along the way, we've been able to really make sure these kids are developing and getting better at football. And I think as the season's gone on, new system, new style of running things, new practice format, new way we lift, new way we condition, all those things. The players have been incredible. They're resilient. They want to work hard. They want to be coached hard. They want to win. They enjoy playing together and playing for each other.
It's kind of wild. It's full circle for me because I started covering you when you were here. Mm-hmm. And I think I covered every single one of your high school football games. And the most one I remember is, of course, the CIF championship with you and Deshaun Foster over at Tustin. Did you ever think when this field that we're looking upon here was green grass and the track was sand basically?
Yeah.
The hill was still here, but everything's changed. Did you ever, and I know you've been asked this question, but did you ever think that you'd be overlooking this program back when you were a 17-year-old kid?
Never. I wouldn't have thought that Deshaun and I would be coaching 25 years later. A lot's changed, and as a kid, the last thing you think about is coaching because you're a player, and you just want to play. And I said the entire time I was playing, I'll never get into coaching. I'll never get into coaching. And that's why they say never say never. And here I am. And I'm here because this is a special place. I'm here because this is where everything started for me. I'm here because the people that are involved, the community, the administration, the leadership at the top. It's top notch, and now we're a top notch program and a top notch conference, and it's a really special place, and I don't take it for granted. With the bumps and the bruises that come along the way and the turns, you got to enjoy and be thankful for what you have, and I for sure am.
When I cover race car driving, Indy 500 or the races I've done, motorcycle races, they always say that the best drivers are the calm drivers. They're not the aggressive drivers. They're the drivers that can slow their heart rate down. You remind me of that. Do you have that? You have an even keel to you. And I know I would be so curious to be what it was like in a huddle with you in the NFL. Do you try to bring that certain even keel as a player that you had to being coaching? Because to me, from afar, it seems you're doing exactly that.
Yeah, it's not any different. When you're the quarterback, you're really the elite, the leader of the players on the field. When you're the head coach, you're the leader of the players on the field and off the field. And so, all quarterbacks that have success have a certain level of poise and calmness. And I don't know if it's the same as coaching, because we all see coaches that just lose their minds and blow gaskets, and they still have success in that.
Sure.
But I think what's important in coaching is you be you.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty even keel. I'm pretty mellow off the field. I was always kind of, calm, cool, and collected in the huddle, in meeting rooms, in workouts, in practice. And I think that consistent level is important for the team to see. Because as a player, you get emotional and you lose it sometimes. And, if your coach is losing it too, it's hard when the coach is losing it to get a player, to drop their heart rate and slow down a little bit. And so, I am myself as a coach, just like I was, myself as a player. And I think it's important, not that you can't have success if you are super emotional and super, wear your heart on your sleeve as a coach. That's just not who I am, and I'm going to stay true to who I am. And I always appreciated as a player. I was fortunate to play for a number of coaches that were always very poised and always very collected and calm in the midst of a storm. And so I intend to coach that way, and I've been able to up to this point, and I don't see that changing.
When you and I talked initially too, during the summer, you said, I'm going to coach this team, I'm going to play out this season like I would any NFL's year. Did you take that? Did you take the philosophy, which I'm sure you did, from the NFL and apply it right here to SM? Because it could be coaching on the high school level, teaching high school things, but you're on the high school level teaching NFL things. Is that true?
Yeah, I don't know what the norm is in high school, just because it's been 25 plus years since I was in high school. What I know is the NFL, and I know the structure of your Monday, your Tuesday, your Wednesday, what your training regime needs to look like in February and March and April, and building into a season, and then into training camp, and into your non-league games. And so you got to do what you know, and what I know is the NFL. I spent 15 years in the NFL, 5 in college, and that the way that I prepared in the NFL, the way we build game plans at the NFL level, even to some of the same schemes we were running at the NFL level, that's what I know. And a lot of people think you can't do that at this level, and I just disagree. I mean, I've been coaching my son since 6th grade, and in 6th grade we were teaching higher level stuff, because at the end of the day, if you care and you want to be good at it, you'll learn it. And you gotta filter out some of the stuff. Some stuff is too much, and we've backed out of some game plan stuff that we were going in, and you try it on Monday in practice, you try it on Tuesday in practice, and then if you get to Wednesday and you're still not able to go out and perform at a high level and execute the play, that's a good barometer for, all right, we need to back out a little bit, or we've got too much in and we're putting too much on a kid's plate. But these kids are sponges. I mean, they want to learn, they want to be coached hard, they want to be coached fair, and I think we've done a good job of doing that as a staff.
As a player here, you won multiple CIF championships, and you played with some great players. How different are the players today than when you played with here at SM? It wasn't the Trinity League back then, but what's the difference there?
Football's football. I mean, even from the NFL to college to high school to Pop Warner and youth football, there's more similarities than there are differences. I just think in the Trinity League as a whole, you just have more great players. We had great players on our team here, a handful of them. We've got a handful on defense and a handful on offense and a handful on special teams, and so does Jay Serra and Bosco and Olu and Servite. So I just think the depth of great players, or collegiate level type of players, is deeper now than it was back then. And that's just, the Trinity League name. The Trinity League has pulled kids, that would, go to school in Corona at Centennial, or, go to school in LA at Inglewood or Crenshaw, or some of these other schools. It has drawn some of those players because there aren't boundaries in the Trinity League. There are no addresses or zip codes that you have to abide by. You just have to be willing to get to that school. no matter where you live. And so I just think that the depth and the talent pool is just deeper than it was 20-something years ago.
Carson, you look healthy. You look good. The way I watch you on the sidelines and the way you move around. How do you feel after 20 plus years of playing football?
Like anybody that's played in a couple hundred football games, there's slower mornings than some, but I've been blessed. I mean, I had a handful of surgeries. I've got my aches and pains and neck issues, and but I'm blessed. I've got a lot of friends that aren't doing great on a regular basis, but I'm very fortunate to feel good. Now my workout regime has been non-existent since the season started, just because there's just hard to get in the gym when there's so many other things going on. But as soon as we get out of the season, I need to get back in shape. But I'm fortunate and blessed, and have felt really good all year.
Financially, I know it's worth it. All the other stuff, is it worth it? The pain that you go through, and you're fortunate because you were a quarterback. But some of the other guys that are not as fortunate as you, when they walk away from the game, and I know you've experienced it, to them, is it worth it? Like the bond that you guys have, the brotherhood that you have, that whole learning experience that you take for the rest of your life. Can you enlighten us on that aspect of it?
Yeah, I mean, the hundreds of thousands of guys that played in the NFL over the last couple of decades, I think everybody's got a different answer to that question.
Yeah.
I don't know many guys that would say, would you do it again? Or their answer to that question would be no. I know some guys that are, physically really beat up, and they're only 40. But I think, for the most part, the guys I know, the guys that I'm still close with, I don't think they'd trade a game or a year or a decade of playing in the NFL for what it provided, whether it be financial, your network, opportunities post-football. I've yet to talk to somebody or have a buddy that says, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying there's not.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are guys that say, man, I should have gone and done X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
I haven't met anybody or haven't talked to anybody about that.
I asked you that question because you have a son who wears number 3. And I had to take a double take when I saw that. I'm like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah.
The relationship that you have with him, a football relationship and a dad-son relationship. Can you explain that? Because you're not the typical dad.
Yeah, it's hard to differentiate it in the season, because we're always talking during the football season about football. Whether it be this past Sunday sitting on the couch and saying, oh, they just ran the skunk concept, or they just ran the dagger concept, or whatever it is. To, hey, what's the energy in the locker room? How's everybody's bodies? Because every time I ask, I'm trying to get a vibe for guys. How you doing? Good. How you feel? Great. Well, I know you don't feel great after, it was Lou, Servite, Mater Dei, Bishop Gorman. Like, I know guys aren't feeling great. So he's a great barometer. There's other guys in the team I can ask those questions. But my son definitely keeps it real with me. And it's great having another opinion or another voice, because he's obviously in every team meeting, and we talk about different things, from football life to campus life to home life. And so I just want to make sure that words are being heard.
Yeah.
And it's good to have him to bounce things off of. Hey, what does everybody need to hear right now? Yeah. Do I need to stop talking about this? Am I being annoying about this? Is this an issue? So it's right now, it's really just football. And it's hard to talk about much else, because football's so consuming in the season, especially as you get to the end of the year and then the playoffs. And so I think once we get to the off season, conversations open up more outside of football. But we talk about a lot of football right now, from game plans to opponents to vibe mentalities of our current team. There's so much there's so much value in his opinion on things, and he's I think well liked by everybody. So I think people are pretty open with him, and also with our coaches on staff, and just getting a vibe for how's the D line in this, how's the linebackers feeling here, how's the safety, and so I think it's important as a coach to make sure you don't just go off of the answers you get from the players directly, and you get input from a lot of different voices, because some people just won't tell you the truth. They don't want to. Like I was that same way as a player. I feel great, even though I hardly got out of bed that Monday. You just don't want to show, a coach that there is a chink in your armor. And so it's important to be able to get those kinds of answers from a number of different resources.
Up next, my conversation with Carson Palmer continues as he answers my question if opposing coaches and referees are intimidated by him. The answer to that and more next here on Coach's Corner. Get ready for the wildest, wackiest competition on TV, Slippery Stairs. It's the ultimate challenge where kids and grown-ups battle their way up a slippery slime slick stairway for glory, giggles, and bragging rights. Do you want the Slippery Stairs madness in your town? Sure you do. We bring the set, the thrills, and the laughs. You bring the crowd. Book Slippery Stairs for your city event, fair, or festival today. Email info@aimsports.tv and let's make your town the next epic showdown. What is the hardest thing about coaching high school kids? In the last segment, you mentioned injuries, and I'm not telling you, totally being transparent with your coach, but really, what is the most difficult thing, the challenges that you have?
There's not one. It's every week there's something that pops up. From fundraising to discipline to grades to expectations of parents. There's not one thing. It's constantly changing. It's a new problem that nobody saw or forecasted, or it's the same thing that just keeps happening over and over and over again. Yeah. You think you handled it. So, these are young men. At the end of the day, these are not professional athletes. These are student athletes. And there's a lot that comes. Some are 14, some are 17. Yeah. There's a big difference in those 3 years in focus and maturity level and disciplinary things. So there is not one thing. I got asked the other day, what keeps you up at night? Yeah. A number of things keep me up at night. Yeah. Coaching staff, the adults. The adults are there's challenges that come with that. So. It's not one thing. If it was one thing, it's all of the things that are constantly coming up and need tweaking or need changing. Yeah. So it's never just one thing.
I assume that you have an enormous respect now for your head coaches that you had along the way, and that trained you and then did what they did for you. I want to talk about this team real quickly. The phenomenal athletes on this team. The defense obviously stands out. Your quarterback's coming into its own. The Mosleys, obviously you got him back. How do you assess, let's just say the offense. How do you assess the offense?
Getting better, no doubt. I think we've been playing better football. We've got one Mosley back. We lost the other one. We're getting Luke Gazaniga back. We haven't had him since week 3 or 4. We lost Jonas Smith week 1. Of training camp. So, we've been kind of rotating guys in the offensive line. There's a freshman in there starting that's played every snap, who's a phenomenal player, Adam Ilo. There's numerous sophomores in that group. So we're younger on the offensive side. Having a veteran senior quarterback's been huge. But we're getting better. We're very, very leader strong and veteran strong and senior strong on defense. And it shows. It shows the way they prepare. It shows the way they practice. It shows the way they play on Friday nights. Offensively, we've been getting better, and that's the goal. As the season progresses, you want to be going in an upward trajectory, and I think we're heading that direction.
Are coaches and referees intimidated by you at the high school level?
I don't think so. I think, especially coaches that have been doing it for a long time, think opposite. I think they think, here's a young guy. Let's, he doesn't know this game. I know he knows that game, but let's see what he knows in this game. Yeah. Referees, I don't think so. I think, I was told before I got here that, they baptize young coaches or first-year coaches. I do feel like there's been some of that going on, but there's also a lot of missed calls or incorrect calls on the other side of the field as well. So. I don't feel slighted. I was told that was going to be the case. I don't feel that way. I think it's challenging on a 5-man crew or a 7-man crew. There's a lot going on the football field, and you see it on Sundays. There's a reason they gave coaches the red flag, because you can't see it all. You can't react to all of it. You can't be right all the time. And so, would I love a red flag, a challenge flag? Absolutely. But so would every other Trinity League coach and probably high school coach in the country. But those guys are doing their best. They're a hard-working group. They want to do great, just like our players. They're for the most part, every team we've played, they're good kids that play hard, and they're coachable, and we're fortunate in that regard.
Short-term goal?
Beat Jay Sarah.
After the season, short-term goal?
As soon as the season finishes, we go right into recruiting the next crop of 8th graders. So put together another great class. We're fortunate to have a great freshman class this year. They've played really good football. They've really learned how to win as the season has progressed. And there's some really talented kids in that group and some awesome kids in that group that I can't wait to coach. May not be next year, it may be the year after. But that's part of what we're trying to build here, is a development platform for you to come in as a freshman, really build continuity and brotherhood and fellowship together with that group. And then, like you saw when I was here as a senior, you got a really strong group that can go out and win all their games. And that starts, from the freshman year on. And so short-term goal as soon as the season's over is make sure we have another strong class.
Long-term goal, I've been wanting to ask you this question when I found out that you were coming back here to coach. Can I tell you my theory?
Yeah.
Maybe you coach on the high school level for so many years and then bounce to the college or the professional level. Is that something that maybe you've talked to your wife about or your kids about, or is this home?
No, I've weighed all those opportunities and looked at that. As soon as I got done playing,
You had those opportunities.
had those discussions and kind of flew around and met with different people and reluctantly did it. My agent kind of forced me into it. But I knew from day one I don't want to coach the college level. I don't want to coach at the NFL level. If I was going to coach, it would be at this level. Or I've got a 5th grader as well, so coaching, and I've been, I coach 6th grade football, 7th grade football, 8th grade football, 5th grade football. And so it'll be at one of those age groups, not at the 18, 19-year-old level.
You and I did some broadcasting together a couple of years ago in the game, and I thoroughly enjoyed listening to you like I am right now. Would that be something you want to maybe do in the future?
I got really close in 2018. Had a couple different contracts on a desk and looked at it and just I flew around and met with all the big networks and did that, and was in a hotel for 3 of the 7 days of that week, and it was intriguing, but you end up spending half of your football season on the road, and I've done that and did that as a player and missed a lot of my kids' stuff, performances, dance recitals, baseball practice, football. I've missed that as a player. And if you're in the broadcast booth, you're missing, you're leaving on Thursdays and come back on Mondays. And I looked at it hard, and just decided that wasn't the route for me.
Who was the most important person in your life? And I'm sure your parents are right up there with the development of you. I can't ask you that question without thinking about Coach Hartigan back in the day. Different style of coaching, obviously, great coach. Is there somebody that pops out that you can share with us?
Well, first, my parents.
Yeah.
I was so fortunate to be raised in a 2-parent home where my parents just loved me unconditionally and supported me unconditionally. Outside of there, I don't have one. I was so fortunate to be around so many great coaches, from Coach Hartigan, who still is counsel to me on every week. There's something that comes up, and he's been through it 20 times or 40 times or 150 times. That's my first. And so he's been somebody I've leaned on tremendously. But it's not one coach. I take things from Pete Carroll to Norm Chow to Bruce Arians to Steve Sarkisian to Lane Kiffin. and Kenny Zampese on and Freddie Kitchens. You know, there was so many, Todd Bowles and Mike Zimmer. I was around so many phenomenal coaches, great coaches. And so I've taken bits and pieces or seen bits and pieces that I didn't like from a player's perspective. Because the way I'm, like I said, you know, as I've been kind of reconstructing this, it's about the player.
Yeah.
It's about the player, and I do very little media because it's not about me. At the end of the day, it happens on the grass, and you can call plays and you can drop stuff in the dirt, but at the end of the day, it's a player's league, it's a player's game, and so that really is the focus, and that's something I got from Pete Carroll. It's something I learned from him right away. You know, it's not about the coach, it's not about any of that stuff. Coaches are very important. I'm not saying that's not the case, but this is a player's game. The Trinity League is about, you know, the guys on the grass that are actually having to execute the plays. And so I've just kind of taken from bits and pieces of different guys I was around and implemented those into some of my, you know, things I say in meetings or topics in meetings or videos I show in meetings from YouTube or all over the place. You know, some of my quotes that players hear me say over and over and over again.
You were told
Maybe I didn't, you know, I used, you know, the next play mentality from Nick Saban. I didn't play for Nick, but I've studied him, I've read his books, and so aside from the guys I was around and in meeting rooms with and in installs with and calling plays to me in my headset on the field, I've pulled from them. I've pulled from the Sabans of the world, and just you know, nothing is anybody's own.
Right.
Right? I mean, especially football's been around for so long. I'm sure Newt Rockne and some of the, you know, the first guys in the game started some things that are still carried out today, but everything's recycled, from plays to names of plays to names of formations to calls on defense. There's very little newness. A lot of it is tweaked or something's moved or something's changed slightly, but you know, the overall concept or the way you read it, the progression you go through on a certain play, those are all things I've just pulled from. They're not things I made up, they're not things I created, they're things that other people gave to me.
Yeah, well, you know what, you're giving back to SM. You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to do this interview. I waited about 15 weeks to actually catch up with you because I wanted that media surge to get past, and the calmness that you have, you bring to that field and you bring to this interview. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Paul.
It's so
Appreciate
cool,
you, man.
you know, going full circle with you.
Yeah.
And
you still look the same. That's the difference. You look exactly the same. That's the difference. Good for you. You guys got good genes.
Go Eagles, right?
Go Eagles.
All right. That was awesome, man.
All right. Appreciate you, Paul. Thanks,
You look
man.
the same.
You do.